Hello.
Hello, welcome everyone to another episode of Lunch and Learn Live. And I do need to get us connected into the Facebook group, but you guys, your hormones are not out to get you. In fact, we are going to talk all about hormones today. Your hormones are actually, they're trying to tell you something. And today we're going to decode the messages that your body's actually been whispering or maybe screaming at every stage of womanhood, because we need to make friends with our hormones and stop looking at them as if they are our enemy. So, Karissa, how many times do you have clients come in and they are at battle with their hormones?
I would probably have to say every woman that I've worked with, myself included. I've just had moments where your body feels like it's a mystery, right? Or worse, like it's fighting against you. But the truth is, it's not. Like you just said, like your body's just asking for support in a language that we're never really taught to how to speak. So I think it's great that we're talking about it today, because learning how to listen to your hormones, and understand what stage you're in and how to support your body naturally in every phase of womanhood is really important. And this is where I love to bring it back to the wisdom of the body, because hormones don't go out of balance for no reason, right? They're responding to stress, they're responding to toxins, poor sleep, nutrient gaps, emotional load. So when I work with clients, we don't just say like, here, take this.
Right.
We look at their entire rhythm, how
Yes.
they're eating, how they're sleeping, how they're feeling, how they're thinking.
Yeah.
Those are the things that create lasting change.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's dive in a little bit, because and those of you who are watching, you've got hormone questions. Now's the time. Get them into the chat box. Let's make sure that we get them answered for you. Say hello and let us know. But hormones it's your cell to cell communication, right? Hormones basically run the show for everything from your sleep to your sanity. Everything is all about hormones. And I know people often, when I say the word hormones, they're automatically thinking sex hormones, right? But your blood sugar regulation, right? That is hormonally driven. So, people think about hormones, they think about, raging PMS, or, crying at the TV commercials, or, wanting to wring the neck of your partner based upon just how they're chewing, for example, right? But hormones, they're so important because they are our body's messengers. They're the ones that are getting the messages all across their body. They tell our body when to wake up. They tell us when to rest. They tell us when to ovulate. They tell us when to calm down. They tell us when to lose it, when maybe we shouldn't even be losing it. So I think first thing is that we're all in different stages of our hormones, right? So let's kind of walk through where different people might be. So you've got your like teenage years to your early 20s, right? And this is the time that sex hormones become prevalent, right? It's when estrogen begins to surge. Estrogen and progesterone, they do rise and fall, kind of like a well orchestrated dance, or they should, during this period of time. Now, if you've got like painful periods or mood swings or acne, or you're dependent on birth control, you guys, just one small amount of time on birth control, like 30 days, can mess things up for the long term. In fact, if you've been on long-term birth control and you are not supplementing with B6, or at least a good quality B complex, then that is an issue. So yeah, even as little as 30 days can mess that up for the long haul. So the problem is, if we're already experiencing hormonal imbalances at this young age, we've got to start to look at, like you said, Karissa, like some of those environmental things, like where are those endocrine, like hormone, where are those hormone disruptors coming into our lives? Think about, the plastic bottles everybody carries around the gym, or perfumes that people use, or, I mean, we go back to our diet. So when estrogen becomes too dominant, that's, we end up with estrogen dominance, we end up with irregular cycles and things like that. So, hey, one easy thing to do, you guys, get rid of the plastic and move back to like stainless steel or glass. I love my mason jars for sure. Or I've got this cup here, which is a stainless steel cup. So find something that isn't plastic that you're not using all the time. So, but that is, that's an indicator. And what happens is for many women, especially, it's like the hormones get out of balance so young and then they're not corrected. So then they stay out of balance, so it's like this constant, it's this constant dance, and then you've got the pregnancy period and I'm going to plug in my computer here. You got pregnancy period, of course, where hormones do all sorts of crazy things. And I always tell women who are looking to get pregnant, number one, you've got to take care of your body because that baby takes everything from you, and it's supposed to. We want it to, right? That's kind of the way it was designed. So mama's self-sacrifices begin well before birth. But if we don't have the nutrients in our system that our body needs, our body's taking everything and giving it to the baby first. And so that leaves us deplete with whatever there is that's remaining later on. So we've really got to pay attention, no matter what stage in life we are, but especially in that preconception and that time when we're having pregnancy. What we eat really, really matters. How we take care of ourselves really matters. Our stress levels really, really matter, at all times, but also at that time, because we are responsible for that little baby that's growing within us.
I think that's huge because I love how you just kind of went through the stages, because what works for one woman in her 20s or maybe her 30s might totally backfire for someone that's in menopause, right? And it's not just age. It's like I said before, it's stress history, it's gut health, it's toxin load, it's trauma patterns, emotional cycles. That's why at South Bay Wellness, we use different techniques and tools like the kinesiology, nervous system support and the personalized nutrition to figure out what's right for you, not the woman next to you.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I think, when we start talking about hormone balance, it can feel like a lot.
Yeah.
So, just ask your questions, because we love to offer a few tools that we use every day at South Bay Wellness, right? That can really help women feel empowered, not overwhelmed. And you just talked about like food is medicine, right?
Yeah.
We use food to reduce inflammation, stabilize blood sugar, support detox, even something as simple as increasing leafy greens.
Simple, right? You hear it all the time, but yes, it actually works.
It really does. Like healthy fats regulate estrogen, regulate cortisol, and then we always can personalize it too, because not everyone needs the same thing.
And everybody's body is different. Listen, we all have different lives. We all have different histories. We all have, the biggest thing that we really contend with these days is toxicity, right? We live in a very toxic world. We are exposed every day, and our bodies were designed to naturally, normally detoxify on a daily basis. However, we're at the point where it can't keep up to the amount of toxicity that we're exposed to, which, by the way, you guys, we are running a summer detox. Registration opens next week. So be ready for that. But that is one of the primary issues that we really need to dive into. So, and the other thing you talked about too is stress. So, I mean, we talked about that, teenage 20s, talked about moving into your 30s and starting to plan for children and have children. But think about what happens in the 30s and 40s, right? This is where a lot of us become like completely overloaded with to-do lists that are like bigger than anything we've ever seen before, between work and family and commitments and all of these different things. And at the same period of time, like in our 30s and early 40s, we're also slowly declining in progesterone. That's normal, right? So we're slowly declining in progesterone, which means that, let me take a step back. So progesterone, that's our calming, soothing hormone. right? So if that calming, soothing hormone is beginning to decrease, now we're just like, we're snapping at everything. We're flipping. We're kind of like, we've got increased anxiety, irritability, maybe lighter sleep, or trouble concentrating and focusing. And so that all begins to take place. Now, this is a big one, Karissa, that I think we see all the time in our practice. And this is something for everyone to be on the lookout for. And it is that one of the things that really plays a role is our insulin. So blood sugar regulation, you guys, back to the same old, same old. If we just managed our blood sugar, we would be so much better on so many different fronts, but specifically on the hormonal front, because what happens is, progesterone and is impacted by your blood sugar regulation, right? So now we've got lower progesterone, insulin resistance starts coming in, and now it's like 3 p.m. and we're having like a carb crash, right? And we're like, oh my God, I need something to eat right now because we're trying to keep ourselves awake. And it's simple, you guys. I mean, one of the things everyone should be doing, especially to help monitor and regulate their hormones, is we should be starting our day with, somewhere between 20 and 30 grams of protein just to get our cortisol stabilized and begin to reduce that, the hormone hijack with, that's taken over. So that's a really important thing that I think most people are not doing. And I'll tell you too, a lot of our clients are like intermittent fasting. A lot of people come in and they're like, Dr. D, what do you think of intermittent fasting? And intermittent fasting has a lot of really good research behind it. And I always tell our women who are, over the age of 40, like, if you want to intermittent fast, it's fine, but don't put excess stress on your body. So if you have a 14-hour window that you're fasting, that's good enough to actually get the results. But there's a caveat. I want you to actually fast in the evening and before you go to bed, and then eat in the morning. And I know a lot of, even our clients, they're like, well, it's much easier. I don't want to, not miss dinner or eat dinner too early or things like that. But it's so much better for your body if you're actually starting earlier and then, ending earlier. So, if you have to, like 9 to 7 would be like that longest, that latest period. But eating before bed too can become an issue because, your food's not actually getting properly digested. So tell us in the comments, what are you hearing? What are you thinking? What questions do you have? Give us a shout out, say hello. We want to make sure we're addressing what your needs are. That's why we do Lunch and Learn Lives. It's your opportunity to ask live your questions. So,
yep. Go ahead. Yeah. Well, I love the blood sugar, right? I think that's super important for people to know. And I wanted to highlight the liver here for a second.
Oh, yes.
Because this is one of the most overlooked organs, right? When it comes to hormones. And yet it plays such a huge role. So your liver doesn't just detox alcohol. It doesn't just detox chemicals, right? You talked about toxicity too. Yep. It actually helps process and clear out the used hormones, especially estrogen. So if your liver is sluggish or overwhelmed, those hormones don't get cleared properly. They actually recirculate. So if you're feeling like you have symptoms of like bloating, mood swings, heavy or irregular periods, breast tenderness is another one, even weight gain. I know you talk about this in the webinar too, like where are you holding weight, right? Can be a clear indicator. So I know for liver, it's around the belly and hips. So if you notice, things like that, support your liver. You can do it with food. You could do it with castor oil packs. You could do it with specific supplements, like you can test them, kinesiology. So you're helping the liver do what it's designed to do and keep your whole system in flow.
Yes. And you guys, I like Karissa brought out castor oil packs, and I really love castor oil packs, but I know there's a lot of stuff out in the social media world right now, and
overnight.
Yeah, I in particular, and this is based on kinesiologic testing and based on, ancient wisdom and just understanding how the castor oil packs work. I know people are leaving them on for like really long extended periods of time and things like that. And what I find is those packs they're usually done in about 10 or 15 minutes. And so that's going to be your best option, that 10, 15-minute period of time. If you need instructions on how to do a castor oil pack, type castor in the comments and we will get you over some instructions so that you can have them. Okay. So type castor in the comments and we'll get you over the instructions so that you can have it. So, all right. So we've kind of went through, and I was just thinking as you're talking about the liver, I'm like, yeah, everyone's partying in their teens, not their teens, in their early 20s, into their later 20s, they're drinking alcohol. And by that time, the liver is like, oh, I need a break. I need a detox. Again, that detox piece, so important. But you guys, after we kind of get into that early 40s period, then the real shift happens, in terms of perimenopause and menopause. And I remember I interviewed Susan Weed, she's a famous herbalist. And I think we did this interview like 17 years ago, something like that. She was way back when I used to run telesummits and we did the Women's Health Empowerment Summit. I interviewed her and I remember she said, so she said, perimenopause. And she's like, does it exist? And she's adamant. She's like, it does not exist. You're either menopausal or you're not menopausal. And I got a real kick out of her interview. And what I love too, she has some books out, and in one of her books for menopausal women, she talks about like we all stress out over this weight gain, but maybe there is this natural sense that the body needs at that age to begin to hold on to a little bit of excess weight to make sure that it can do what it needs to do for the later parts of life. And I'm not talking excessive weight. We're talking, not dangerous levels of weight. But we have to think about what happens during this period, right? So as we're moving into those perimenopausal years, our sex hormones, they are changing. And the more out of balance our liver is, the more out of balance our blood sugar regulation is, the more we actually have crazy signs and symptoms. Because I always tell people you should be able to move through that menopausal state without crazy, hot flashes and mood swings and brain fog and all of these different things. Yeah, may you experience some of them probably at some level, but it shouldn't be. I mean, we have clients who come in where it is debilitating for them. And that's when you know that there's some serious imbalances. But as we move into that period of time, it's like, it's like a tornado. Estrogen and progesterone, they start to leave, right? But they're putting up a fight as they're leaving. And so, some of our clients, they end up with like hormonal hunger that's like uncontrollable, or hot flashes, or your periods become irregular, or mood swings, or just like weird new symptoms that show up every night. Like those of you who are waking up between like 2 and 4 a.m., or you're getting that belly fat like around that midsection, or even like decreased libido, like that's another sign that you're moving into that phase. But it doesn't have to be torture, and you can actually balance it, right? We already talked about cleaning out the liver. We talked about food, diet, nutrition. I really like adaptogenic herbs like ashwagandha or maca. Maca tastes good. You can throw it into your smoothies and stuff, but that's another one. And then of course, making sure that you're actually getting in enough protein throughout your day. And you guys, when I say protein, I know everyone's automatically thinking animal protein. I'm not always talking animal protein, right? Plant-based proteins are perfectly fine and good and also helpful, so that's something to be on the lookout for as well.
Yeah, we have Jolene. Hi, Jolene. She asked what could be impacting low endurance during my normal daily walks. And I have to say, we see that with clients all the time, right? They're not necessarily sick, but you feel like you're running on fumes. And I know, and I'm sure you can go further into it, Dr. D, but it's often tied to adrenals, cortisol. We mentioned earlier, blood sugar imbalances. So look at like, chronic stress, because that'll just keep your cortisol elevated and then cause burnout. We talked about poor liver function, right? Can't flush out the toxins, your blood sugar dips. So you're on like that energy roller coaster and
Yeah.
typically get like the afternoon crashes. And, also low nutrient absorption,
Yeah.
fatigue despite eating well. So you're not absorbing your food. If you're tired after you eat about 20 minutes to an hour, there's something else going on there. If you're eating something like whole food, something healthy.
Yeah, Jolene, if you give us some more information too, it could be helpful in helping us guide you and support you. And I would say, Jolene, 100%, like we're opening up the detox for the summer next week. Get yourself registered. Get yourself registered for the detox, because that's going to be really helpful. Because you guys, I always say our health is kind of like a rain barrel. Those of you who have been watching and following me forever already have heard this, but for those of you who haven't, I always think about our health like a rain barrel, and that rain barrel is always filling up. And yeah, we're taking stuff out sometimes, but if it's filling up faster than we're taking our stuff out, at some point it begins to overflow. And that overflow is what we call our symptoms. So if all of a sudden, Jolene, you're getting exhausted during your normal daily walks, then we need to take a look at what are your stress levels, what's your food, what's your sleep habits. You also want to take a look at your home. Is there anything going on in the home? Any mold exposure, anything like that? Are you hydrating enough? Are you getting in enough minerals? I had great energy on vacation and noticed endurance issues when I came back after 2 days. So the question is it just some, you need some rest after your travels? That's always a possibility. Or is there something else that you were exposed to? Those are different things to look at. And if it's something that happens on a regular basis, then we do suspect that there's probably some hormonal stuff that could potentially be going on as well. So that is something to look at.
Yeah, okay. I think, right, like when you're on vacation, you finally slow down.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And the stress that we've been holding can kind of catch up to us when we return. So
exactly.
Even then, like, you're probably eating differently. You know what I mean? Maybe you're drinking more, maybe you're sleeping less. So when we come back, we like get hit with that re-entry of stress. Mm-hmm. And if your adrenals are already taxed, it can feel like a full body crash.
Yes.
So yeah, I would just look at that, Jolene, to see how you are away and when you are home. And like you said, it's so common to need some rest after traveling.
Yeah, the other thing that you just said just sparked something for me too. If you are eating differently while you're on vacation, or you're having more alcohol or things like that, your body is going to come home and it's going to need to detox. And so it may slow down a bit based on that. But the other thing too we haven't addressed is, where are you with your cycle? As a different time of cycle change? Because as we go through our cycles, there are different times of our cycles that are actually where we've got more energy and we're more vibrant. And there's times that we need to like slow down a little bit, right? Before we get our period, that's more of our like slow down period. That first day, second day of your period, those are slow down periods for you. So those are all different things to look at. But Karissa, I think you hit the nail on the head too, talking about stress. And Jolene, I know you said here that you think that stress could have played a role, but that stress management is so, so, so important. So you want to make sure that you are taking on breath work on a regular basis, right? It sounds like you're walking, so that's really good for stress relief. But the breath work is important. And so you're age 47. So now you are starting to move into that perimenopausal area. So what happens, you guys, when our sex hormones begin to shift and the estrogen and the progesterone, they really, see their way out, the adrenal glands take over. So if you've got a history of being really stressed out, if you've been burning yourself out and burning your adrenals out for years, what's going to happen is your body's going to start to scream. Your body's really going to start to speak up. So you may have that tiredness, the exhaustion, the sleep issues, vaginal dryness, bone loss, So this is where you really need to support the adrenal glands. And the adrenal glands are, it's your minerals, your magnesium, your B vitamins. It needs that love and support because they are now they are now responsible for what, estrogen and progesterone used to take care of. So you want to be really careful with your adrenals and what you're doing to support them. And I also love going back to castor oil packs. I love castor oil packs on the adrenals. In fact, when I feel myself starting to get stressed out, it's the castor oil packs on the adrenal. I tell you, I personally feel a difference like day and night after I've done an adrenal castor oil pack. So I think that that's really important. So take a look at where are you taking care of yourself? Where are you not taking care of yourself? Where is that stress coming from? And how do you mitigate that stress? Gosh, Karissa, I think we talk about stress almost every single session, but
well, it impacts our bodies so much, right? And to comment for Jolene too, and every other woman, your cycle is a report card from your body, like when things are off. So it's not a punishment. I know it feels like it, but it's information. And detox is one of the fastest ways to get the system back online, right? So you mentioned it before, like sign up for the summer detox because it is such a great reset. It's not just about food, right? It's about creating that space for the body to clear what no longer is needed. So your hormones can regulate, and you'll focus on gentle, nourishing detox. We're not into extremes here, using whole food, liver supporting tools like the castor oil packs, supplements if you like, and just being able to personalize everything based on where your body is super important.
Yeah. You guys, your symptoms are not your enemy. They are your body's wisdom, right? I am all about creating the body-led movement where we are all about listening to our bodies, understanding what our bodies are saying, recognizing that they're asking for support and not suppression. So you want to take a look at what's my body saying? What does it need? Because that is so, so, so important.
Yeah.
So I think we went through all the different areas and in the 30-minute segment, which could have been hours upon hours and hours, but we did give you guys a brief overview. Great. So you're doing detox. That's awesome. So you guys, it's really important. Take care of yourself. You got some final words of wisdom first, Karissa. I'll let you go.
Yeah. Well, I feel like you don't need to take a magic pill. You know what I mean? And you don't need to have a perfect diet or any other extreme protocol. What you do need is, a personalized plan, consistent support, and a space to actually listen to your body. That's where healing lives, and that's what we do at South Bay Wellness. So as we wrap up, I just want to leave you, your hormones are not working against you. They're speaking to you. And I know how frustrating it is sometimes, but when we slow down and we tune in, we can create the right kind of support that your body responds beautifully to. I mean, we've worked with tons of women who have come in and been like, oh, these hot flashes, or I'm waking up in a pool of sweat, or I can't sleep, or I'm up at 2:00. And, and all of that gets back into balance. And they're like, oh, wow. I've been told that this is normal for as long as I can remember, but it's not normal.
Exactly.
You can shift it.
Yeah. Our body's screaming. Okay. So I've got some challenges for you guys based on the things that we spoke about. So number one, start drinking out of glass or stainless steel. Get rid of the plastic. Even if it says BPA free, just get rid of it. Okay. It's got other stuff in there that can impact our hormones. Remember to make sure that you're getting in at least 20 or 30 grams of protein at all of your meals, right? Try not to eat in between meals. Get that 30 grams of protein, especially at your breakfast. If you want to intermittent fast, and it's probably good anyway, end your meals at 7 and then don't eat until breakfast the next morning. And practice some breath work. 3 minutes of breath work before bed can help shift you and really support the adrenals. And of course, we would be remiss, Karissa, if we didn't talk about, you guys look up your products that you're using, your body care, your shampoo, your conditioner, your skincare products. What is in those products? So I love EWG.org, the environmental working group. So go there, look up your products. Are there things in there? Are there phthalates? Are there parabens? Are there things in there that are known to disrupt your endocrine system? Okay. So, all right, we're just a couple minutes over, but thanks everyone for joining us for Lunch and Learn Live, and we'll see you next time.
See you next week.
Bye. This is Dr. D reminding you to tune into your body, connect with what matters, and embrace the journey to true wellness. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who's ready to redefine their health. Be sure to grab a copy of the True Wellness Checklist right in the show notes. Let's keep redefining wellness and empowering change together.